healthcare reform and with the transition between a transition into electronic medical records, I think Gerry's going to have something special to share with everybody. So Gerry, it's all yours.
Thanks. Thanks so much, June. Well, I've been asked over here to talk a little bit about data security and HIPAA compliance readiness, which happens to be a really serious law here in the United States when it comes to protecting patients' healthcare information, which we deal with when we're doing BPO businesses. In any case, just since there was not any major introduction, let me, oh, is there, oh, here it is. My name again first is Gerry Dumatol, and basically I represent DUMATEK. And DUMATEK has been around for a while. We're a HIPAA security support and service company, and we're incorporated here in California. DUMATEK has been around, as I had mentioned, and started when HIPAA was just getting into its final stages in the year 2000 to 2001. Basically, just because we don't have a lot of time here, HIPAA, which we always talk about now, is the law that protects patients' identifiable healthcare information. And it's officially called Protected Healthcare Information. And we call that PHI for short. And the word protected should be taken as protected by the government. And the government, of course, we're talking about is the United States government. Okay, so HIPAA only applies in the United States. So if any companies, or being a BPO company, supporting a medical or healthcare entity in the United States, then you could be pretty sure that assured that this company is managing PHI in electronic form, which we basically call Electronic Protected Healthcare Information, or EPHI. Here in the United States, we have the HIPAA security rule, that basically is the law under HIPAA that is currently enforced right now and put in place to specifically protect EPHI. Okay, so now in the companies that I basically support here in the United States, I'm actually the security officer or security consultant, and of course I'm specifically placed into the companies or assigned to maintain the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of the EPHI that these entities create, manage, store, and transmit. And the way I actually do that is I implement reasonable and appropriate security measures, to basically mitigate, or if not eliminate, the risks that are on EPHI. I'm also proud to be a Filipino, so it's not foreign to me what's happening in the Philippines, with the BPO businesses supporting U.S.-based medical providers. And I'm not shocked seeing, the thought processes that are actually being applied from the brilliant minds that we basically have in the Philippines to make this industry happen. So, and also, I spent my grade school and high school in the Philippines, so you can pretty much say I grew up over there. I'm actually a graduate and went to LaSalle Green Hills. And then of course, came to the United States and got most of my credentials here in the United States. I was actually also in the U.S. Navy for 10 years. Okay, so, but I've been in information technology as far as I can remember. And my background pretty much could be just found in Google. With the power of Google, you can find pretty much everybody. But I always invite everybody to just Google my name, Gerry Dumatol, and a lot of my background is actually in there. Now I'm here really to talk about data security and HIPAA compliance readiness, and it's supposed to act as a key to basically being a successful BPO in the Philippines. Okay, so what I can tell you is that medical entities today are really seriously taking a real good look at their compliance right now, because it's currently being enforced by the government. And at the same time while this is happening, a lot of these physicians' offices and hospitals are currently getting paid an incentive, in order to convert their operations into electronic form. And one of these things that they have to do in order for these companies and doctors' offices to get incentives is that by law, they have to show a funded IT security expenditure. Now, when we take a look at that and assess a lot of companies, we see that they're spending a lot of money in order to collect, create, manage this information. And they really can't show any expenditures on spending on the security of this, the information that they're managing. Okay, and so this means that these entities are required by law, to show money spent specifically for the implementation of HIPAA security. And there is a regulation, for HIPAA security. And the payments have to be towards the implementation of that particular law. And this is also a very big part of the conversion of the healthcare industry into electronic form. And they want to, of course, convert everybody by 2016. So these companies that are getting incentives right now, they could be getting their incentives, but if they don't have their electronic health record or EHR system in place by 2015, they're getting penalized in 2016. Okay, so if they have to spend money to show that they're implementing HIPAA security, you could imagine how that applies to BPO. Okay, so another thing is that a contractor got paid $9.2 million to come up with an auditing tool, a HIPAA auditing tool. And that's currently underway. It started January of this year. They got paid last year to develop it, and they're now already putting this tool into action. And in the seriousness of what the government's doing, they also trained everybody at the state level. So even the state attorney generals today are already penalizing entities here in the United States under non-compliance to HIPAA. So basically, with that said, I can actually talk about HIPAA privacy and HIPAA security all day, but we don't, of course, have that kind of time. But I do want to, say an important thing as I'm here, that everybody needs to know that there are only 3 types of entities in HIPAA. Okay, and these entities are covered entities, business associates, and subcontractors. And what's very important to know is that if you're going to be dealing with any type of health information management program, well, I'm thinking that you have to be either any of these 3, when you're servicing. So it's very important to determine whether you're a business associate or whether you're a subcontractor. And that's because of the new laws that have amended the HIPAA privacy and security rules, which is, the high-tech law. Okay, so if you're none of this, and you can't seem to determine who you are, well then that would simply be saying that you are doing business with a US-based company who is a covered entity of HIPAA. That company is at risk. Oops. Okay, well, I have some a sample of some assessments that we've been doing. And there are companies that are currently managing EPHI in the company, which also shock us, but of course, that's the way it is. And at one point in time, it's very important to understand that this law used to be enforced by the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services. And it was enforced from the year 2000 to 2009. And at 2009, they were basically replaced by the Office for Civil Rights. And now Office for Civil Rights is the one really enforcing the laws right now and very active in doing that. But going back to this slide over here, just a scenario of some of the companies that we basically have already assessed. This is just an example of a business associate that is basically servicing a covered entity here in the United States. The business associate is also in the United States. And basically, this business associate is outsourcing the back-end services for these covered entities. And this company here in the United States, which is the business associate, is being supported by 40 people in the Philippines. And these 40 people really don't have any type of formal corporate structure. Okay, and so they really can't tell who they are. And nobody's taking ownership of the operations. And the bodies are actually getting paid to manage the EPHI. So, and this has been happening for quite some time. So from the standpoint of the company that's getting service and the company that's getting serviced, everything's okay. Because it's been happening for quite some time. Okay, so the outfit in the Philippines is headed by a leader who collects payments from a business associate over here in the United States. And the leader, once he receives the payment, he just renders it out to the workers that are in the Philippines. And that basically for the job that they've been doing, managing EPHI for a covered entity here in the United States. Okay, so again, this entity can't really determine what they are in the HIPAA chain of entities. Obviously, by stating that, the companies, the covered entities in the United States are basically at risk. Basically the Philippine section really needs to get into a corporate structure so that they can put themselves in and declare themselves as a specific entity servicing the covered entity. Okay, and this can be done. So, when you see this kind of model, it needs to be fixed. And then basically the business contract needs to be developed, and this is part of the business associates agreement. And also, this allows the covered entities to have verification of the awareness of where the information is actually going. Okay, and so, and after doing that, what's nice about this is that the company can actually gain the essentials. Okay, not necessarily saying, that it's in compliance with HIPAA, because that really doesn't apply in the Philippines. Okay, but these essentials could be developed in order to retain the U.S.-based companies or even expand the U.S. client base that this business associate wants to have. Okay, and we're talking about it, in our company, because of course we've been doing this for many years, and we're interested in the development of the Philippines as well, being a Filipino myself. And some of the things that we're talking about is like the conformity monitoring program, where a conformity monitoring program would actually be able to report the status of a BPO or report a status of an outsourcing group. Okay, and not only its status in security, but also its its status in retaining the conformity to what is the essentials that is required to maintain the companies as under business. So, anyways, I spent a lot of time here, and but I do want everybody to know, whether you're here or in the Philippines, doing business with him, that these are some questions probably that would allow you to start making sure that PHI is secured, making sure that you can start creating the documentation, which is a necessity. Okay, so the first one, which is, do you come close to conforming to the HIPAA privacy and security laws the U.S. Covered entities are required to implement? And in order to get that, you have to go to the federal registers. You have to go to what every company here in the United States is required to do. Okay, and not necessarily meet it exactly the way they do, but maybe even be a little bit more, extensive, just to show the interests of wanting to stay in business. Also, have you identified risks associated to your operations when protecting the PHI the U.S. covered entities are required to protect? And in order to do that, a risk assessment is required. Okay, and a risk assessment is basically in place so that a company could identify the risks and vulnerabilities to the PHI that they're managing in the company. The next one is, can a threat get to the PHI in the process of your BPO operations? Well, once you assess and you identify the risks and vulnerabilities, what comes right behind that is a risk management program. Now, when you implement a risk management program, it's actually the security measures that is required in order to mitigate, if not eliminate, the risk found in the assessments. Okay, and that's part of the risk management. And that could be simply, how can we lose this information? We have all our securities in, but I need to know that one way we can lose information, even it's up to the level of just somebody taking a cell phone and taking pictures on the monitor, and stuff like that. I know that's kind of, tedious, but at the same time, that could be a way we can lose information. We just need to know that. Did you budget and identify the time necessary to close the gaps to become secure and conform to the HIPAA laws of the United States? That's another thing, because you do have to put time into this. And what do you have to demonstrate that you are maintaining continuous security and retaining conformity to the HIPAA privacy and security laws? Okay, so those should be very helpful questions again, leading everybody to be able to document necessities in order to have these business relationships. In any case, when it comes to data security and the understanding of HIPAA compliance, in an integral part in attaining the essentials needed to retain the U.S. healthcare clients or expand U.S. client base. So needless to say, that is very important. Okay, so some of the other things that I just wanted to mention that, in order to make this happen, I do foresee a requirement of entities and professionals that would be able to make this happen by securing all relationships, between whatever's happening between the United States and the Philippines. And maybe a division or a group to audit the conformity of BPOs, okay, such as what DUMATEK is also in place to be. All right, so that pretty much is everything that I basically have to say, and I just want to thank COTIFA for choosing me to speak tonight regarding these HIPAA associations to BPOs. All right, thank you so much.